Good morning and welcome to Module 2. So today I want to talk to you about this particular module, Module 2, and we're going to go over pretty much everything. So this book or this module has to do with diverse populations. So we want to really consider the diverse population in today's classrooms. We want to develop and implement a literacy program based on the characteristics of diverse students, adapt instruction to foster the needs of all students, especially our English language learners, understand RTI and MTSS approaches as it relates to diverse learners, and then think about accommodations for students that have diverse languages, dialects, cultures, etc. So that's our objective. So let me go to what we're going to be doing today. And so let me share my screen here with you. Here we go. Okay, so this week you have one chapter to read in your textbook. That is chapter 2. And the title of that chapter is Teaching All Students. And you are going to read about all the diverse students. We have economically disadvantaged students, which makes up, if many of you might teach in a Title I school. I've been a principal of a Title I school, so that presents challenges. Students that have learning disabilities, students with reading difficulties, students with ADHD, intellectual disabilities, with autism, with speech disorders, gifted and talented students. You may not think, well, that's not a problem. Well, no, but it's something we need to think about, right? And it's depending on where you're at, that's a part of special education. Fostering literacy for English language learners is also huge. And so all of that, we're going to be reading about all the diverse learners that we have in today's classrooms. Now, if you are, I know we have many educational therapists, you may just be working with one student, but or a small group of students, but in the course of your career, you're going to have many different diverse students that you'll be working with. So what will we be, now you're going to see a bunch of articles here. I'm going to get to that in a second. You have 2 assignments today. The first assignment is you are going to create a video where you are going to review 2 books that you could use with culturally diverse group of students or students with learning disabilities that would support their understanding of that, or that you could implement as a part of your instructional program. So I'm going to share 2 now, and I actually learned about these books in a previous semester of this class. Both of the books are by Kathy Hoopman, and she has other books in this series. The first one is All Cats Are on the Autism Spectrum. I have a son that has autism, and so I really enjoyed reading this. I like reading it because it goes over the special qualities of students with autism from the viewpoint of a cat. So it says things like, those on the spectrum look at the world in their own unique way. They like to be near those they love, but might not want to be held. So it talks about some things that maybe they don't like, but then it talks about things that they're really good at. For example, when they are spoken to, they may refuse to make contact, but it says, in many ways, those on the spectrum think more deeply than their peers. They know fascinating facts. For my son, it's geography. He knows everything about geography. And they go to great lengths to test their theories. So, really good book. Another book, and I have another son that has an ADHD diagnosis, is All Dogs Have ADHD. And this, again, tells all the characteristics of students with ADHD, but then gives that positive to it. So really 2 books, 2 good books. There's other books in this series I would highly, highly recommend. You might want to add them to your own library. So you're going to post a video. You don't read the book, but you're going to You're going to say the name of the book. You're going to give the author. You're going to summarize it and then explain how you would use those books. For me, I would use these books as a way to just to introduce autism, to introduce ADHD and what it is, and explain the fact that all students will be given what they need. I know sometimes teachers are like, well, I can't give this accommodation to that student because that wouldn't be fair. Well, not everyone's going to get the same thing, but I would use this as a way to explain that every student will get what they need. Okay, so that's your first assignment. Your second assignment is the one that'll be, you have to a little bit more challenging. You got to think about. You are going to look under the Learn section and you're going to pick one of the articles and you're going to select one to write a summary critique. So that means you have to go back to the Learn section. So remember when I told you that I would talk to you about this. So here's Learn. Here are all these articles. So you click on the article and there you go. It's right there for you. So you find an article that interests you. Now, if you, maybe you are an educational therapist, or maybe you're wanting to go into administration, and you have another article that you'd like to read, you can do that. You just need to run it by me first, because I need to make sure that it's a research-based, peer-reviewed article that you use, okay? So you can use any of the ones under the Learn section, or if you want to get your own, you can do that. So once you have found that article, you're going to read it, and then you are going to first summarize it, and then you're going to do the critique. So here's the summary. In the summary, you need to explain the research name. What's the question that the researchers were asking? All research should have a question. What's the design? So is it an experimental design? Is it a correlational study? Is it a qualitative study where they're doing case studies? You need to explain that. How many subjects are there? You need to talk about what is the intervention? What's the instrument? Now, they may not have an instrument, but if they do, you would explain the instrument. For example, maybe they're going to use the core phonics assessment as an instrument to assess something. What is the analysis? So what are the results? What are the findings? And then what are the implications of that? That's all part of the summary that you're going to be writing. Now, I don't want you to just put headings for each of these things. I want you to write in paragraph form and explain this. So that's the summary part. And usually students do okay with the summary part. Here's the critique part. You need to explain how was this article beneficial to literacy or not? Do you have any confirmations or contradictions? And if you do, you need to provide outside research to support that. How could this be incorporated in literacy? And how does this connect to what you've read in your textbook? Okay. This should be an APA. I'm going to let's look at the rubric here for this. And I would say always go to the rubric, and if you follow that, you're going to do great. So the article, did you choose one that was the last 5 years? I went in and tried to update it and put in more recent articles. So hopefully they're all correct. The summary, it's 1 to 5 pages. You expertly synthesize the research. There is an acute understanding of the design, how it relates to the author's questions. So you need to put all of that information in there in the summary. The critique, it reflects your understanding of the implications. You bring in outside information to explain the evaluation and design and the results. It's clear that you've evaluated and show that how it's applicable. Of course, we're going to look at writing. It needs to be an APA. In class, I have given you, under resources, lots of APA. There's even a template for you to use. Please use that template, okay? ChatGPT is not allowed. AI is not allowed. This is your own work, Okay. Um, and of course, we want citations to be correct. Now, I did want to just explain something really quickly before we go here at our time. So you have some articles and you're going to be critiquing these articles. So you have the summary and the critique. One thing I wanted you to be aware of is that most, because of legislation, the federal government gives states money, some money for certain programs, especially Title I programs. But there's always a carrot to that. And part of that carrot is the strategies have to be what they call research based. But here's the thing. There's a big difference between something that is research based and that something that has been proven to be accurate or to be correct, has been evaluated through rigorous, systematic, objective procedures. And so what you really need to understand is, according to federal law, research-based just means that it's based on fluency, vocabulary, phonics, phonemic awareness, what am I leaving out? Comprehension, yeah, the big five. So it's based on that. What reading intervention wouldn't be based on one of those components? They're all going to be. So what we need to think about is not just that it's research-based, but have they used systematic research strategies to prove the effectiveness of the intervention? So you need to look at, and I'm going to send you guys an article about this, you need to look at things like the validity. Do they have a control group? That's important. You have a control group compared to the group that you're doing the intervention. Did they use things like randomized control groups? That's important. So I'll send you an article that gives you like exactly what we're doing. We don't want to do things like in research. If you have an article, for example, in research, we sometimes call it cherry picking. And that's where you have a program that was done in one school, in one site, and everything is based on that one study. You don't want to do that. So I want you to understand the difference between scientifically based versus research based, because almost everything's going to be research based, but is it scientifically based using research? That's why part of this class would be want you to look at this article, critique it to see, is it scientifically based? Maybe it's just research based. That's the point. You need to be a research connoisseur where you know what's valid and what's not valid. Okay, so those are your 2 assignments this week. If you have any questions, let me know. I am going to be having regular office hours on Thursdays. Let me see what time this class is, from 4 to 4:45. So I'll have open. If you just want to pop in and say hi, and I have a question about this, you can do that. Okay, have a good day.